I'm here this afternoon with Terry McKeska. And Terry, you've expanded your heart in a whole new direction this year. From what it appears, you started with a Fill the Pot project, and from what you've been sharing right before we started the taping, it's expanded. So why don't you update us on the project everyone's familiar with, and then share the exciting news of what's going on now.
Well, this all started a few years ago when I was bored of traveling and decided I want to help some people. What can I do for other people? Because Miss Tucker, that many people know,
Oh,
that
yes.
I took care of for 23 years, said, do the most good for the most people. And I said, I went online, went through a program, and decided I'm going to host some students. My students happen to be in Nepal. So for the last few years, I've been helping these students with their boarding, their books,
What age
and their
age
school.
group?
And these age groups are 18 to 23.
Okay.
18 to 23. One was in high school, two were in starting college.
Okay.
And they spoke English.
Good.
Because the ones that can't afford to go to school take English as a second language, hoping someday by being bilingual they can expand their horizons and find better jobs and maybe come to the U.S. as well. So through the years I've hosted these kids, and this year I lived the nightmare of the earthquake.
Oh, yes.
I talk to these kids every day on Skype, every day. And I lived the nightmare of the earthquake. I had sleepless nights. I couldn't sleep because I had no Wi-Fi connection where they were. I wondered what happened to them, what was going on, if they made it out of the little apartment that they stayed in. And after several days, I finally got a phone call.
Oh, yes.
That they borrowed from somebody's phone saying, we are okay, but it's very, very bad. We will try to make camp, pick up some Wi-Fi so we can communicate. I said, please do, and tell me what you need so I can help. So the kids finally found a tarp. They grouped together with some of their other friends. They went closer to the hospital in Kathmandu. There were thousands and thousands of people, of course, that were killed in this earthquake.
Sure.
And the things that I saw once the kids were able to borrow a phone from someone to go on Wi-Fi from the hospital and show me how devastating it was with the camps that were set up. And it was not just the camps. They were starving. They had no drinking water.
Sure.
There was nothing I could do. Western Union was down, MoneyGram was down, banks were destroyed, and it was devastating to me. And as it got more and more into the earthquake and the aftershocks and everything else, it got just inundated. The government didn't know what to do with all the bodies, and they had to, of course, start burning the bodies. And I witnessed that too on Skype, and it was quite devastating. I couldn't sleep every night. Finally, China was the first one that brought in some bottled water, cookies and things for these people to have some something to eat and something to drink, along with some blankets, some more tarps. And unfortunately, after the earthquake, it was raining badly. Every day it was
that made it
pouring down
worse.
rain, so it made everything worse.
Yeah.
So when these kids finally said, I think it's time, we want to go back home to our families. And of course, their families live on the east and west side of Nepal, which is a 12 to 14 hour bus ride. After a week or so, Western Union MoneyGram finally opened up, and I said, let me send you some money for a bus ticket. How much is it for y'all three? And they said about maybe $18 to $25. I said, well, let me send you couple $100, which they thought was way too much. But I said, let me send that to you so you can maybe find something to eat, maybe. But everything during that period that was left in the grocery stores
Spoiled.
skyrocketed,
Yeah.
spoiled. What they did have left more than quadrupled in price.
Sure.
And what has happened is the transportation companies were not charging $18 and 20 something for a bus ride. They were charging $100.
Oh, no.
So only the well-to-do could afford to
Yes.
get out of this mess. It wasn't until several days that the government caught on and put a stop to that, and felt badly for what the transportation companies were doing for these families and kids that needed to get home to their families. So they handed out thousands and thousands of vouchers.
Oh, good.
Now they stood in line for a day and a half,
Oh,
but they finally got on a bus and got home. I was finally relieved.
I bet.
And they received the small amount of money that I sent to them, so they could buy them something to eat and get home to their family. So it just, through the last several months, well, actually through the last couple of years, the kids that I've hosted has been wanting me to come and visit Nepal. And I said, well, okay, I'll come and visit. And I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking, you know, that's all the way on the other side of the world.
Yes.
You're talking over 30-something hours of flight time and airports and everything else. It was just very long. And I went online, I went on different internet sites and trip advisor sites, and was reading people's reviews and stuff about traveling to Nepal. And it seems like it kind of settled down. Airports opened back up, operations are back in order, and I decided, okay, this is the deal. I talked to the kids. I said, look, I will come to Nepal, but I want to do more than just come and visit all this disastrous situations that I'm going to be seeing.
Yes.
I want to come for a purpose, not just to come and visit y'all and the family, but I want to come do something for somebody.
Right.
And what can I do? So can y'all find me a mission? They didn't really understand that. I said, a project of maybe people that need help. Find me something. And they said, oh, that would be very easy. Let us research it, and let's find something that's not receiving any of the different money that is being sent from the countries to rebuild Kathmandu, especially from the second earthquake. Let us find a village or something that has received nothing. So the kids researched it, and way on the east side, near Bangladesh, which was affected by the second earthquake, they found a village outside a town called Berthamode. And outside the little village of Berthamode is a tiny village of a little over 500 people who lost their homes in the earthquake. Now when I say homes, these are homes made out of mud.
Wow.
They're made out of mud with a piece of tin on the top. That's what these are made out of. And so the kids went without any identity into the village as these people were rebuilding their village, which was simple with the volunteers to rebuild with mud, to see what could y'all use? What could you use in this village now that most of you are rebuilding your homes? And the people said, we are looking for cans so we can cook. We need cans.
Wow.
So if we could find some aluminum cans, our rice pots were destroyed, and we had a rice pot that we cooked in every day. That's all they eat is rice every day. If they have a little bit of change, or they scavenge through the fields and find vegetables after the pickings, they'll have some vegetables and rice. Most of the time it's just rice.
Wow.
And so their biggest need was a rice pot, but that was way beyond their thought of ever being able to have the money to replace their rice pot. So they got back with me and we talked on Skype, and I said, is there a factory that makes these rice pots? And they said, yes, it's in Kathmandu. A factory outside of Kathmandu that is the main factory that makes the rice pots.
Perfect.
I said, so if I'm going to come down there and spend a few weeks, I said, I want you to, number one, I have an assignment. I want you to contact the factory, however you make contact with them, find out what kind of rice pots, how much they cost, what is the best price you can get for these rice pots. And please don't tell them it's for someone coming from Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Because tell them it's for you, and let's get the best price so we can get the most rice pots for our money.
Right.
And they understood that. So they called the factory, and the factory was not affected in a great deal by the earthquake, but they were still producing the rice pots, and was quite pleased to tell the kids that they can get the 100+ rice pots that we could give to these 100 families that each had 3 to 4 to 5 family members that all lived in these houses made out of mud and tin. So the rice pots are approximately $16 to $18, some with lids, some without, and they're like little small pressure cookers. So I said, well, naturally if we buy a rice pot, surely they need rice. And of course the kids said, but they kind of scavenge the rice from the rice fields after the harvest. And I said, yes, but there's no need for that. These people have worked to rebuild their homes. They need some hope.
Yeah.
Can you find the rice factory in the village? Oh yes, there's rice factories in every village. I said, we harvest and grow our own rice. We take our own rice to the factory. We pour it in the mill. It separates the hull from the rice. We put the hulls in a bag. We feed it to our cows and our goats, and then we take the rice and we put it in a container that we have that'll last us through the winter until we get our next harvest of rice. I said, I want to see if I can do 100 or more large bags of rice that are put in bags and zipped across the top. Can you do that? They said, yes, we can do that. I said, well, do that for me, and you're coming that much closer for me to come and visit, because I want to come and do the most good for the most people. So I asked the kids, I said, what else do these people eat their rice with? And they said, well, and they call me Teddy, even though my name is Terry. They said, Teddy, they eat with their hands. They just eat with their hands on whatever they find. They eat out of the pot. If they have a plate, they use a plate. The plates are made out of metal. We usually have metal plates. They could be aluminum, I'm not sure, but the kids call them metal plates. And maybe one family will use a spoon, but that's a very high-end item to have a spoon. I said, then I want you to find me the resource for these plates, and I want you to order me at least 600 or more plates, and I want you to order me at least 300 or so of these spoons to go along with this, and let's make this happen.
Yeah.
So I put this all together, and I kept thinking, what am I going to call this? Well, I'll call it Fill the Rice Pot. And so as this progress was playing out, I started talking among friends and started talking on Facebook about it, and not really anticipating anything coming out of this, because I really was just going to do this myself. I was just going to do this myself. It's nothing more than me spending money going on a cruise, taking my son to Africa. I mean, it's not any more than what I would spend on that to do this particular project. And so I decided to start speaking to my friends about the excitement of going to Nepal and helping these people with the village. But everything turned around, because next thing you know,
They wanted to be part of it.
Everybody wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be a part of it. How can we help? How can we help? Can we send clothes? Can we send items? And I said, well, what I'm using is air miles to get there. I'm using my own air miles to get to Nepal that I've used for travels, and I can only take a couple of 70-pound pieces of luggage a piece, without paying excessive charges. And I said, let me give this some thought, and then we'll go from there. So after about a day of thinking about it, I thought, well, I have never asked people really for anything, but if they want to help, I guess they could give some money.
Yeah,
Even
let
if
them be a
it's,
part of the blessing.
I mean, $10, $5 would go so far in this country.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to think of, well, how am I going to collect this money? So talking with several people in town that have done other missions and that said there are certain websites and that you can use that will take the funds from people and distribute it to you prior to your trip. So I investigated that, and I talked to several of the movers and shakers here in San Angelo that have done this before, and set up the website on GiveForward and .com. And before you know it people started pouring in, and before you know it, there was $500, $1,000.
Fabulous.
Next thing you know, people were messaging me saying, well, I don't have a computer, I don't really understand how to do all that kind of stuff. Can we take money somewhere? So I said, well, okay. So I called Kim at Popel Stationery in Stadium Park Shopping Center, and I said, if I put something in your store on the counter, could people bring money if they wanted to? And she said absolutely. She believed very much in this mission, and said, I'll be a collection point. So people started bringing money there. Next thing you know, my phone was ringing off the wall and says, well, where can we send it? And I said, well, man, this is really growing. So I started giving people my address, and so checks started coming in the mail, and before you know it, somehow the word got out to media, and I had people like yourself and newspaper and TV stations calling about this, and I kept thinking, wow, this was all going to be just me being the provider in this, but now it's becoming an entire family of us in San Angelo, and even friends of mine from around the world. I host military guys that I have for years that are in the intelligence here at Goodfellow Air Force Base, giving them a place to stay for their few months. And I know several of them. And in fact, just yesterday I received a check from one from Kuwait.
Wow.
And I noticed on the envelope it said free postage, and I thought, that is right. They get free postage. They deserve free postage for serving in the military. And I received a check from one of the military guys that I've known for years that was here at Goodfellow that wanted to contribute to this rice pot. So after all this came about, one morning I was sitting out here on the porch and with my dog and talking with the kids on Skype, and someone drove by here by my house and hit the brakes and backed up, and it was a lady that lived out here in Bentwood, and she rolled down her window and she said, oh, are you Terry? Are you the one taking money for this mission you're doing in Nepal? And I said, yes. She said, can I give you some money? I said, sure. So she got out of her car and she handed me some cash, and so I've been collecting, and so far I've raised almost $4,000, which was enough to fulfill the rice pot mission.
Great.
And I have the pots and everything ordered, and it's going to be very, very exciting. But as I talked to these kids, and these kids went around to the villages, they started seeing there's more needs, and they started talking to me about other needs. And so they called me and said there was a school that was in one of the valleys that they were just badly needing some school supplies, just some tablets and some pencils, some very simple items.
Sure.
You're talking a few $100s. And I said, sure, I can't say no to children. Tell them that however we get there by horse, vehicle, backpack, which I heard was going to be backpack. We'll get to these kids and we'll take them their school supplies
Wow.
and anything else that they need. Give me a list. Then there was an orphanage that the kids found for me that this church adopted on the east side of Nepal. And very sad situation. Children, over 80 of them, that have lost their parents in this earthquake or yet to be found or,
Wow.
or put together with their families from ages 2 to 11, 12 years old.
Oh my.
And so I told the kids, I said, go talk to them. What are their needs for something like this? What are their needs? And they got back with me in a couple of days and said, well, their needs are, one, rice. They can always use rice. So for a few $100s, I can have an entire truckload of rice for the orphanage. I said, but what else did they need? They said, adoptions. I said, well, I'm not sure about how I can help in adoptions other than spreading the word about adoptions. I said, what else do y'all need? And they said, prayers very badly, because the church doesn't have very many funds to even buy the rice, and we are just getting the mothers together to take care of all these children.
Wow.
I said, and what other needs do you have for these children? And they said, well, they're all in their same clothing that they've had since the earthquake. And they sent me pictures, and I saw pictures, and I thought, wow, dirty clothes. I mean, the clothes were filthy. The kids were playing in dirt. There was nothing educational for them, no toys, no books, no nothing. And so I said, sure, let me adopt this orphanage as well. And I asked the kids that I'm hosting, I said, do y'all have areas around the area like we have in the U.S.? It's like maybe a Goodwill, a Salvation Army, some kind of facility where maybe the wealthy people take their clothing and that you can buy, resell, secondhand. And they said, yes, we have many all over, even around the orphanage, but it's very, very expensive. And I said, okay, well, what is expensive for the clothing? So the kids went to check it out, and they said, well, it's very expensive. You can only maybe get 2 clothing items for $1 US. And it just brought tears to my eyes. And I thought, wow, for a couple of $100s, I could buy clothes for all these kids.
Right.
For a few $100s, I could buy them clothes and blankets.
Shoes.
Maybe $400 or $500, I could buy them a coat for the winter.
Oh yeah.
Maybe some shoes to wear. What's so little it would take. So as the word started getting out in the community, blessings started pouring in. Holy Angels Church, I received a blessing from. Trinity Lutheran School and Church.
Awesome.
Jimmy Bass and family from the Bass Bunch. I was very blessed with. Wall Brethren Church out in Wall, Texas, and their Sunday school, and many other churches that I have talked to said they would like to help. The university, I have talked to Susan Campbell at the West Texas Collection, and she too is helping me with some of these organizations on campus that are interested in assisting. My son now, which goes to Texas Tech University, called me the other day and said, Dad, you know, I'm in charge of a lot of these things now with my fraternity, and we had our meeting and we talked about the mission, and I got not just our fraternity but many of them here.
Oh wow.
And we're going to get together and have a fundraiser for you in October.
Oh, wonderful.
And we're going to have funds. And so I kept thinking, you know, there's no reason why I can continue to take on more projects. So I long story short, I've taken on another smaller orphanage that has only about 30 children. I've taken on the large orphanage, the senior citizen orphanage that I've adopted that wants very simple mosquito nets. They're very poor. I have no idea what this even looks like, but they're just asking for mosquito nets is number one. They asked
That's a health issue.
If any way, so I'm not even sure what this facility looks like, if it's even outdoors over maybe a roof structure. They would like a large rice pot if they could, so they could cook all together for the seniors. And these are seniors that have no family.
Wow.
They have no children, they have no family, they have nobody. So
Survivors.
they're just survivors.
Yeah.
And so I've ordered a very large rice pot for them. I've ordered slippers for them. And a lot of this, you can get from the country next door, from China, which has slippers and blankets and things, very inexpensive. For $1.80, I think was the cost for slippers, a few dollars for a blanket. So the kids did all this research, and if it wouldn't be for these kids that I host, I would be scared to take this mission by myself, because I would not go by myself. I would end up joining an organization and going with a group that's more constructive. But this whole thing I've constructed myself with the children that I host that speak English. So, we talk every day, and the kids send me pictures when they can borrow a camera. We have children here being fed. Sujan, which is one of the kids that I host, is here in the rice patch.
Wow.
He's harvesting the rice. Actually, he's planting the rice, and this is the rice that I'm going to harvest in October.
Oh, how fun.
They said, Teddy, you must come in October, and we'll teach you how we harvest rice. And I said, oh, do you use a tractor, a machine? They said, oh, no, that's very expensive to rent. We use an ox. We can use an ox for maybe $4, but we do this all by hand. Even my grandmother, that's 90 years old, and my grandfather help harvest the rice.
And walk in that swampy, muddy.
And these are children that, if they can, they have some food, that they have some rice, they eat with their hands. And these are photos that the kids took for me.
Do they season the rice, or is it just plain, or do you know?
They do season the rice. They use a lot of curry, a lot of curry spices.
Okay.
Now, curry would be a luxury for some of these villages that I'm going to. It would be a luxury. What I was told is that if they salvage some vegetables from the farm, or have any change, they'll buy a few vegetables to cook with the rice. A lot of times, it's just plain rice. The kids took this picture of this little girl out of her little mud house that she was eating in her plate and eating some rice. This one really got to me. The kids took of a photo of a gentleman that was actually just scavenging.
I saw that on Facebook. I think you posted it.
Through the trash, sharing with a little boy there.
Yeah.
So you can understand how very little money goes a very long way.
Is it possible, with the terrain and whatever the elements are in that area, to possibly begin teaching and planting vegetables, to add that into their diet?
And that's what I would like to do. Some of these kids that I'm talking to do have farms.
Okay.
They have farms. And I asked these kids if we could get together, as a group, to go to this village, to help teach this village and help them, and showing them, because they do get plenty of rain. They're in these valleys.
Yeah, they're rice. They're getting a lot of
which gets a lot of rain.
Yeah.
But many of these people they're not educated, or they don't know how, or they don't even have the money for the seed.
Right.
But if I can help with getting these kids to help educate them on how to do that, and I could purchase the seed for these villages, then it would be a big plus for production for these villages to learn how to do it on their own
And expand their diet.
and expand,
Yeah.
their health. Where I'm going is in very, deep valleys. So it's going to be, as I was told, a lot of mosquitoes
Ooh.
and things. So, of course, I had to get a lot of shots.
Yeah.
My arm is still a little sore after getting about 4 or 5 vaccinations, a lot of antibiotics. But I'm very excited about doing this mission.
It sounds wonderful.
And like I say, you can find me on Facebook under Fill the Rice Pot. It's under
Okay.
Fill the Rice Pot on Facebook. There's addresses on there for contributions, or you can do it online. You can go to Papel Stationery next to Zettner's Daughters on Knickerbocker.
Do you still have the funding? What was the address of that one? Pay Forward or something you did?
Yes, it was Give Forward.
Give Forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
giveforward.com. Giveforward.com is the website, and then just put search Fill the Rice Pot, and you'll
Okay.
see a photo of me with the rice pot, and there you can give anything from $1 to whatever you would like to give, knowing that every cent that you give will be going to these families, these folks, these orphanages.
Such great needs.
There's no need
Yeah.
for any funding for travel, for none of my expenses.
Yeah.
I'm covering all of that myself.
Okay.
And I was going to cover most of this myself, but I just feel blessed having people
Yeah.
that want to be involved. I
Well, they
didn't
want
wanna
part of the
ask,
reward of the blessing.
but I want them to be a part of it
Yeah.
if they choose to, and that's why I went from 1 project to 6 projects.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it happen good for the most people.
Do you see this as being something that could end up being a perpetual deal?
I do.
I kind of sense that because
I think once I go down there and I see this and I sense it, it could become an annual thing because it's going to take years and years to rebuild
Absolutely.
Kathmandu.
Yeah.
There was no structure to those buildings, no framing or nothing. Their last earthquake was in the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
So imagine these buildings that are crumbled.
Yeah.
It's taking billions of dollars to rebuild such a large city for millions of people. But at the same time, I see me going back even next year, once or twice, making this happen again.
So are you going to take lots of pictures
I will have
and
lots
report
of
to
pictures
us?
and lots of videos, and I will be able to have pages and pages of videos and pictures to show you.
Great.
Right there, even on YouTube.
Right.
I will be posting actually live as long as I can pick up some Wi-Fi in some of the villages where I'm going to be. There's not going to be any internet, but as soon as I can get Wi-Fi, I will be downloading them at least every few days.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Terry, thank you for your time. Thank you for your heart and compassion to help these people. I love the way your heart has expanded with this mission, and God's blessed it in so many ways.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.